everyone, welcome back to the 37 Rounds podcast. I'm your host James Alexander Hobbs, and today we are talking about the aftermath of the Ring of Champions out in Saudi, where we had 4 amazing world champion fights. I think looking at that card alone, just of the 4 championship fights that we had, only one of them being Anthony Yarde, who was going into it with more than 3 losses. You know, that was incredible. You've got Benavidez unbeaten, Brian Norman Jr. unbeaten, obviously BAM unbeaten, and Abdullah Mason and Sam Noakes both unbeaten. So it was a fantastic night of somebody's O has to go, and obviously, unfortunately, quite a few O's went that night. Started things off with the Sam Noakes Abdullah Mason fight. You know, Abdullah Mason is someone I don't know much about, if I'm completely honest. And obviously Sam Noakes is a British fighter. I think they said he's from Maidstone, so he's a local lad. And what an absolute war that was. Again, that showed another night of things that you can't teach in a boxing gym: pure heart, bravery, and just sheer toughness. Like, you even have to scrunch your nose when you say it. Sheer toughness of Sam Noakes. You know, Abdullah Mason, I think before that fight, he had a 91% knockout rate. He's known for heavy hands, and he's only 21 years old. And he showed on the night that he clearly can bang. He can clearly hit hard. But I feel like watching that fight, I felt like that was his only game plan. If you watch the fight, he was just trying to throw big single shots a lot of the time. And I think that was also his downfall, in the sense of Sam Noakes was just there, constantly pushing him right in front of him, gets smashed in the face, his eyes bust, he's bleeding, he got hit with a couple of hard body shots that sent him back, but he still just picked himself up and just kept pushing forward and showed real tenacity and toughness. And that's what I think made the rounds very close. I think each round was a close round, with the punch output not being necessarily great. You know, Mason was just loading up, throwing big shots, 1, 2, just really trying to do damage. And they were clearly doing damage, but Noakes just kept pushing forward, and that was like real. And in doing that, he was able to apply pressure to Mason. So Mason too had, a cut on his eye, scratch under here, he got hit with some big shots, got hit with some big body shots that also sent him back. So it was like a real proper punch up, a real proper fight. And it was great to kick the night off. If you joined, after the prelims, there was, that was a really good sort of fight to get the night going. And I think Mason won. I had Mason up. I think it was 2 rounds by the end of it. A lot of them were give and take either way, depending on what you liked. But Mason just looked more, I want to say dominant, but he wasn't necessarily more dominant. He was more pushing to get the knockout. Sam Noakes looked like he was just holding on, surviving, and not in the sense of holding on, as in holding on, taking the big shots and just thinking, I'm just going to keep coming and just give it everything and just hopefully I can get something. It never looked like he was going to knock out Mason, never looked like he was really going to do significant damage, but every round that you went into, you thought Mason's going to do some damage here, and subsequently that's what happened, and he got the win. But I do think it was a very close fight. I had him up 2 rounds. I think it was 2 rounds I had him up, but so what a great night to kick things off. Both of them, I'd love to see that fight again. I think that to be a rematch would be a phenomenal fight, and I think Noakes can go away and learn a lot from this fight to come back and make the second fight even better. So that was that one. Phenomenal fight. Phenomenal fight. So that was that one. Absolutely phenomenal fight. A good proper war. Probably up there with one of fights of the year, I think, if I'm honest. I think it was sort of that Conor Benn Eubank 1 sort of toughness that was shown, but with 2 highly skilled boxers. So that was fantastic. After that fight, we moved on to the Jess BAM Rodriguez versus Martinez, and this fight looked like Jesse BAM never had to really get out of first gear. I think the first round probably I actually gave the first round to Martinez. A lot of people were saying, oh, Jesse looks very comfortable and as if nothing's happening here. I thought the first round, Martinez actually won that round. He seemed to be applying the pressure, throwing in the big shots. You could hear him giving everything. He was, yeah. Every shot he was giving something. Obviously that faded as the fight went on. But BAM just looks like he's in there with a heavy bag. He just looks like he's doing a heavy bag workout routine, very calm, very relaxed, and occasionally the heavy bag hits him back. He was dominated in footwork, dominated in range, dominated in combinations, dominated, and eventually got the knockout. So clearly dominated on the sheer pain that he was causing. So he's a phenomenal fighter. You know, he's again another person who, again, unified division, can't see anybody beating him. He just looks far too relaxed and far too calm and doesn't get drawn out. You know, he didn't. Again, him losing the first round is of little significance. You can see that he was just using that to figure out, okay, what kind of fight are we going for? Right, he's going for the fight that we sort of planned for. This is what I need to do, and he just did that. He did that and just absolutely dominated the fight. It was a pure boxing masterclass. And the interesting thing is he made Martinez look like he wanted to quit. There was a couple of times where the camera panned over to him and you thought, he don't want to be there. Even in the corner, he's like, what round is it? They're like, oh, how's your nose? Because he kept brushing his nose because his nose was hurt. A lot of blood was coming out. He's like, oh, I don't feel too good. You know, all those things. You have to remember, Martinez is a world champion, top level fighter. And BAM just made him look like he's in there with a heavy bag that's swinging around the gym and occasionally would throw something back. BAM made it look so easy, which is, you know, an incredible thing to be able to do, especially in the fight game. You know, it's a tough sport. And it's interesting, you watch these sorts of fights and you go, wow, there's a massive golfing class between these two. And especially the Benavides and Yarde fight, which we'll go into later on. You look at it and go, there's a massive difference between these two. Like, how can this happen? And there is a massive difference, but both of these are at the top of the game and at the top of the level. And you kind of go, he should be fighting someone like that. It's like, no, he should, but that's just how he's that those guys are that naturally, they're God-given talent in that sense of this is what they're meant to do. You can train. This is what I was sort of referring to with the Jake Paul and Anthony Josh thing. You could train your entire life, minute, second, breath of trying to beat Anthony Joshua. You just won't. Jake Paul just won't beat Anthony Joshua. It's impossible. And Saturday night's boxing showed that with the fights. You know, Martinez would have trained for absolutely everything and everything and more to be in there to potentially pick up 4 belts. You know, there was a WBC on the line, WBO, and the Ring magazine, and I can't remember what the other one that was on the line. But so he wouldn't have gone in there and gone, I'm just going to get bashed up and hopefully, you know, I get the win. He went in there with a game plan of training to beat BAM, and that natural ability and level just absolutely excelled him. A bit like football, you know, you go, well, all these football players are all training with Cristiano Ronaldo. Why can't they be as good as Cristiano? There's that something edge that these people are meant to do these things. And Saturday night showed what champions are made of. There's that natural ability, there's that talent that takes you so far, but then there's that natural ability that just, if you work hard on that, you're unstoppable. And BAM showed that in his fight, a very easy night. And even the commentator said, when did you think you would, at what round did you sort of know that you was going to win this fight? And he said, from the first. And then they were like, why did it take so long to get him out? And he was like, you have to remember, Martinez is still a world champion. He's still a phenomenal fighter. But, you know, just took him, he just enjoyed giving the beat down for a little bit longer. And I think once BAM put him down, Martinez knew that he wasn't going to get up. He probably could have got back up, but he looked like he wanted to quit 3-4 rounds before that, which is, you know, again, no disrespect to him because you're in there with the best of the best and you put up a very good performance. So that was that one. Again, another phenomenal fight, a guy making it look phenomenally easy, and obviously BAM is going to go on and again, unify the division and absolutely clear up. They were talking about him going up a weight, and from how comfortable he dealt with Saturday night's fight, I think for him pushing up 2, 3, 4 weights, well, no, not 4 weights, but he could definitely progress up the chain and become a 4-5 weight category champion, because he just looks, it's like that Manny Pacquiao back in the day, you know, it's that sort of raw talent and speed and whatnot that you go, wow, he could be a 4, 5, 6 weight division champion for sure. So again, second fight of the night was another phenomenal fight. Couldn't knock that one. Another brilliant fight. Then we moved on to the Devin Haney versus Brian Norman Jr. And, you know, before the fight, in the knowing of both the fighters, I would have put my money on Brian Norman Jr. to win purely for the knockout power. And again, the fact that Haney hasn't looked himself in his last few fights, especially since the Ryan Garcia fight. But I think Saturday night showed why he took that fight, why he felt, you know, why him and his team thought, okay, let's go in there with arguably one of the hardest hitters in the division. Let's go in there because they saw something and they knew they could beat him. And they did. Haney boxed fantastically well, and it did look like his previous fights was mainly because of a weight issue, trying to make weight. This looks like a natural weight for him. Again, dropped Brian Norman Jr. in the second round. You know, a great 1-2. I think it was a left counter 1-2 that put him down. It was a really good sort of opener, and you thought, wow, you know, this looks like Haney's weight division. And then the rest of the fight, he went on his bike. He went on his bike and just boxed clever, you know, just, you know, nothing impressive. You know, people, Conor Benn, all them on the night were saying, you know, you fall asleep watching him. It depends what you want. If you're a boxing fan, you like that skill and ability to navigate, and didn't do anything crazy, tied up, used his jab, kept him at range. Every time he threw the right hand, he'd duck under and roll. He was always trying to do something not to get in the fight and win the rounds. And that's what he did. You know, he didn't think, right, I've dropped you in the second, I'm going to pounce, I'm going to give it everything, go for broke. He said, I've got a long night ahead of me, I'm going to play it slow and just go from there. And he did what Devin Haney does. It was a clear example of hard puncher versus a phenomenal, naturally talented, hard-working, gifted individual who knows how to box, and his ring IQ is phenomenal, that he goes, I'm just going to get the points. I'm just going to play the long game. I'm just going to throw the jab, nothing crazy, and win over the long run. I think I gave Norman, I can't remember now, but I think I gave him 3 or 4 rounds, you know, 3 rounds. One of the scorecards was 14, you know, 114, 113, like 1 round in it. I was like, and that would suggest that they scored each round 6-6, and because of the knockdown they lost. Wild claims. I definitely had Norman on 3 or 4 rounds. Since after the knockdown, he went into overdrive, just trying to look to get him out. Even his corner was like, you're behind, you've got to do something, you've got to knock him out, And Norman Jr. went in to do that, but couldn't do it because Haney was just too good in terms of his boxing ability, movement, and ring IQ, and just kept it simple. All you need, flick the jab out, and that's it. Win the rounds, and he did. So it wasn't a great fight, you know. It wasn't a fight where you'd go, oh, I'm desperate to rewatch that one. You know, if I was to say to fight fans that are listening, what fight should I go and watch and listen to? The Mason versus Noakes fight. That was a real good fight, a good proper fight. The Devin Haney and Brian Norman Jr. just a, you know, passive, win the rounds, win the fight, win the belt. Now I'm a 3 weight division champion. But well done to Devin Haney. You know, he's a great fighter, and Conor Benn's. I think Conor Benn and Eddie kind of went on the run a little bit. You know, the presenters going, oh, would you want to fight Haney next? And they're like, I don't want to fight him. You know, he's boring to watch. I want to give the fans something. It's like, you say he's boring to watch, and you don't want to fight him because you want to give the fans a fight. You have to remember, Brian Norman Jr. is a brawler, is a heavy-handed brawler, and he tried to go and do that, and he couldn't do it. Conor Benn himself wouldn't be able to beat Brian Norman Jr. at the moment. So it's like, why does he think that his raw aggression and brawler instincts of pushing the fight would win? He wouldn't. Devin Haney would do the exact same thing and beat Conor Benn. You know, he would just play the long game, nick the rounds, you know, and go for that. Conor Benn hasn't got the beating of Brian Norman Jr. at the moment. He hasn't got the beating of Devin Haney. So where they kind of went on the run going, I want to give the fans something. I want to give the fans something to like and watch. It's like you're doing the right thing by staying away from Haney. You know, you guys can say you want to give the fans something to watch and enjoy. Boxing fans enjoy that. He's a 3-weight champion. That's phenomenal. That is a level like that. I don't think that Conor Benn will reach again. I don't think it's a level that I don't think Conor Benn will be a 3-weight division champion. You know, he might become a 147 champion, but you look at the 147 division, he can't beat a champion at the moment. I think Barrios is probably the only champion, or Rolly Romero is probably those two are the only people that he has the beating of later on, not at his current state. I think he has the beating of later on, and whether or not they're going to still be the champions by then. But you know, I think Catterall is definitely in line for something first before them. So I think, you know, if Catterall beats Roman, then who does he fight? Who does Conor Benn fight? You won't want to fight Catterall, that's for sure. So they did the right thing by playing playing it safe and going, I don't want that fight. I don't want it. It's not interesting. Don't interest me. So yeah, you're doing the right thing by staying clear of that one, because if you don't want that fight and you want an interesting fight, go and fight Brian Norman Jr., the guy who just lost to Haney. He's a brawler, heavy hitter. Go and fight him. Probably hasn't got a chin. You know, if Devin Haney managed to rock him and drop him, stands in a good line for Conor Benn to give him a good old rough and tumble. But go and do that. Go and fight them first, and then see where you are compared to Haney. So that was my rant about that bit. I saw that and I thought, you're calling out the wrong things. Just work through the levels. Work through the levels before you have to go on this, I'll take anyone. You wouldn't beat Haney. You wouldn't beat Haney. So you can say he's boring, he puts you to sleep, but you wouldn't beat him. So, I'd find that'd be quite an interesting fight to see, because it's like, okay, you think you can do it, get in and do it. Knowing where you are is a key thing in boxing. I'm never going to beat Conor Benn. I'm never going to even get in the ring with Conor Benn. I wouldn't want to, but I'm not a boxer, so it's fair to say, but it's like, I'm not calling him out. I'm not calling these guys. He's calling out these top guys and being like, yeah, I'll smash him. It's like, and then after this fight, him and Eddie did the right thing by carefully deflecting it by going, the fight's boring. Don't fight boring fights. Don't want to be a world champion. If it's a boring fight and you think you can beat him, go and beat him and become world champion. Whether or not it's boring or not, go and do it. That would be amazing. But anyway, so yeah, it was a bit of a boring fight, but congratulations, Devon Haney, done what he does best and won it over the 12. So great, a good fight, not a great fight, but he done the business. Then it led on to the final fight of the night, which was David Benavidez versus Anthony Yarde. Like I said in the previous episode, I had Benavidez down to win. And I feel for Anthony Yarde because he's another person who has given it everything, and he's at that world level, but he's never done it. And after that, I don't think the chips are down, and unfortunately, he's not going to become a world champion. But that's what I'm saying about Saturday night showed the importance of levels. Anthony Yarde won't become a world champion, but he's been at that top level, and it's hard to see that, because you then saw the golfing class between him and Benavidez was huge. Benavidez, again, easy night for him. Punches in bunches, strong, hard punches. He's up for a fight. He kept calling Yarde in. Busted up Yarde's face. Yarde was doing some of the right things, which, was trying to break Benavidez' flurry of shots. When Benavidez got going, he'd try and fight back to sort of rattle him off his pace and rhythm, but it just didn't work. Benavidez is just far too good, but Yarde got in there, done the business, and tried and gave it everything as well. He was taken out of the fight. Just the Benavidez got him out there. In the 7th round, had him down. The ref jumped in, gets back up, flurry of punches. The ref flags it off, TKO for Benavidez. He's a phenomenal talent, and that's where I really feel for Yarde. Is someone who you're rooting for to become a world champion, but it just won't happen for him, unfortunately. And it's a tough night for him. He got a good beat, he got a good beating, and sort of the realization of the belts are tied up. I haven't got nothing to win here. I can't compete with these guys. I'm at world class level, but I'm never going to be a world champion. And it's the whole Eubank, that's where people like Eubank and Ben watch that fight and go, there's levels to this. There really is levels to this. And to get to that top level is near enough impossible. There's only a few champions, and that sets them above the rest. And Yarde, I desperately wanted him to do it. I was rooting for him, but it just wasn't on the cards for him, which is unfortunate. But a great fight, another really good fight. I think the Benavidez, good fight. Noakes, Mason, exceptional fight, and the BAM Rodriguez fight, a good fight, really good fights. Those three great fights, worth the watch, and would happily recommend anyone to go and watch them. So it was a good night of boxing. I was pleased. I'm glad. The people who I thought were going to win won. The fight, apart from Devin Haney, this one I thought he'd bitten off more than he could chew, but he did the business. He did the business, and obviously I hadn't seen much of Mason, so I didn't know much about him. And unfortunately for Sam Noakes, he didn't get it over the line, but it was very close. It was 2 or 3 rounds in it, so it was a good night of boxing. So that kind of concludes the Fight Night Ring of Champions night. The other thing that happened during the week was on the Friday night was the Jake Paul finally got to meet Anthony Joshua face to face, and he looked rattled, especially when they do the face-off and he's looking up and he sees the sheer size and thickness of Joshua just standing there next to him. You see him look up and he's just like, I think at that moment he realised, what have I signed myself up to? What have I got myself in for? Because it's all well and good standing next to a cardboard cutout, but when you see a man of AJ's size and stature, you kind of go, this is real, and I'm in for a rocky, rolly night with Anthony Joshua if he gets in the ring with him. And I think from that face-off, it wouldn't surprise me if Jake pulls out. If Jake Paul pulls out, it wouldn't surprise me, because he's standing there looking, and you can see it in his face. He's gone he's drained. He looks like he's just had the life sucked out of him. It's just like press conferences. He was moving different. The face off the way, and he looks like a scared, like, oh my days, what have I done? It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And I now can't see the fight happening. I can't see this fight actually materialising. I think there's going to be Jake Paul's going to have an injury, fight delayed, X, Y, Z. But if he does go in the ring and he does do it, I'll tip my hat off to him and say fair play to you, because that takes massive balls to do that. Like, it takes huge balls to do that. Like, there's no way in a million years I would ever want to do that. And especially with a Olympic gold medalist, 2-time heavyweight champion, who was Britain and the world's #1 heavyweight. You have to remember that as well. For a long period of time, he was the #1 guy, and you're going to step in the ring with him when this guy's still, right, he's not at his peak anymore, but he's still up there in the top rankings. So interesting to see, funny to see, and I think if this fight, I now don't think this fight will materialise. I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's going to. We've got 2-3 weeks to go. I think in that 2-3 weeks, there's an injury, there's a slip up, there's something didn't go right. We've had to postpone it. It's not going to happen. So anyway, that's enough of me rambling on about that. Hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, remember you can always get in touch by reaching out to us at the 37rounds@gmail.com email, and you can, if you want to voice your opinion, say something about the fight world, the fighting space, please send it there and we will review it in one of our episodes. That's it from me, guys. Take care, have a great week, and we shall speak soon. Adios, amigos.